All right. With that, I guess I'll try to get started here. It's always hard because I'm bad at transitions, so like I'm on the mic all night. I'm not sure like when I'm supposed to like turn on the funny or not. So, well, thank you everyone for coming to celebrate my successful PhD. So really, So the really big part has already passed. About a month ago, I defended my dissertation research. And for those of you who are not too familiar with what that looks like, so for about 50 minutes, I publicly speak and defend everything I've done with my research the last 5 years in front of a large and intimidating crowd. But I passed, everything went well, so now I can kind of relax and cut loose. And so what do? Stand-up comedy, which is, for 50 minutes, I publicly speak, defending everything I found funny for the last 3 months to a large and intimidating crowd. But yeah, so it went well. I attained my PhD. So I'm a doctor, not MD, not medical doctor, just PhD, which is good, because I'd actually make a terrible doctor, especially a surgeon. Because I'm a large guy, I overheat pretty easily. I mean, I look at a pair of stairs and break into sweat. So I can't imagine first having to put on a bunch of extra clothes and then be put in the most nerve-wracking situation a human being can be put in, open heart surgery. I need someone to just wipe me down full time. So I'd have to go into the surgery and order a wet nurse. Yeah, it turns out that's not what they do. But I'm sure I'd still be able to make it through and be able to come out and I'm sure I'd still succeed, come out, be able to talk to the family. Mrs. Lopez, I'm very happy. Your husband will make a full recovery. He is the recipient of a brand new sweaty heart. So yeah, the dissertation went pretty well. It was really nice. I had a lot of support from my family who was able to make it there, and some of my friends. I think the quote of the evening was from Jake, who said, "I didn't know it was possible to be totally engaged into something I didn't understand at all." That's actually not true, Jake. It's called women. But we're in the same boat here. I don't understand women very well either. As a bit of a side, as a freshman in college, I thought, well, here am I, a clueless male. Maybe I should take a class to learn more about women. So I took a women's studies class. Yeah, it turns out that's not that kind of class either. Though it was far worse when I decided, well, hey, I'm also not very sociable, so maybe I should take a class to learn about that. So I took sociology. That was not that kind of class either. In fact, I didn't even know what kind of class it was, because the first class I went to, I thought it was actually finance class, because all they talked about was diversity and equity. Then the second class, I thought it was optics, because all they talked about was everything being on a spectrum. And then finally I thought it was, the class was abnormal psychology, because they were all acting, well, I'll let you figure that one out. But no, it's been really good. So got my PhD, which is actually Doctorate of Philosophy, which is kind of cool, but a bit of a shame because even though I actually really like philosophy, to get my PhD, I didn't really need to take any philosophy courses at all. So at some point, I might just have to go back and actually get an actual philosophy degree. I know you're all thinking, what, Mark, more school? Shocking. But I think it'd be easier this time around because I actually have my philosophy thesis all picked out. It's called The Things That Are Nice and Why We Can't Have Them. It'd be a very good topic. And it's much improved from my topic, what I chose as a freshman, which was, this is like why we can't have nice things. But I'm sure as I would progress in my philosophy degree, the thesis title will get much more convoluted. It'd probably end up defending something along the lines of, to this extent that nice things participate in being, through the aspect of goodness, we through our intellectual agencies are unable to make actual the existence by virtue of their essence. But philosophy gets a lot of bad rap, like being kind of like a useless degree. I'm gonna actually, I heard a joke once about this. I don't try to do my own stuff here, but I like the joke so much I'm just gonna do it. So, there was a head of the physics department was bemoaning to his colleagues, it's so hard to work with physicists, because all they want is more money and more space to build their big fancy machines to run their experiments. It'd be so much easier to be working with mathematicians, because all they need is paper, pen, and a wastebasket. Or even easier, philosophers. They don't even need the wastebasket. But yeah, philosophy gets a bad rap. Another common joke was, well, what's the most important question philosophers will be answering once they've got their degree? Do you want fries with that? But the research has shown that that's really not true. The big questions that philosophers are answering out of college is more along the lines of, why does one want fries with that? Or, what does it mean to want fries with that? The really high-end questions philosophers are asking are, to the extent that man, who is mortal, strives to keep his hylomorphic unity intact through assembly of the potentiality of prime matter to his own actuality, does he want fries with that? But yeah, I've got my PhD, Doctorate of Philosophy and Biology, so I'm excited that, which means eventually I'll be able to teach, and I'm excited for that. I really value teaching, despite my own natural tendencies to have very unhelpful insights. Like for example, in genetics, one of the common things we teach students is what's called Punnett squares. Essentially, it's if you have what the dad looks like and the mom looks like, you can kind of determine what the children will look like. And that's usually pretty challenging for students, though my insights usually don't help. All right, college sophomores, don't worry, Punnett squares, they're not that difficult. They're just matrix algebra schematized. Yeah, but I'm really excited to eventually teach. It's going to be really exciting up there on the whiteboard, writing things down with all these fresh young minds ready to learn about biology and ask questions. And they'll be like, excuse me, Mr. Williamson? And I'll be like, please, please, please. Mr. Williamson is my father. It's Dr. Williamson. So I hope everyone's enjoying themselves. For those of you who haven't experienced all of this, and maybe you're having a hard time with this, so just imagine I am off-brand comedy. You've got your name brand, like Lay's, whatever. I'm the generic or the store brand. So if you think you're not getting your money's worth, just, that's not the point. So I'm generic brand comedy. So if you want to get your name brand, you can go get like a Brian Regan. But if you want to just go to Target, you can get Up and Up Brian Regan. You got your name brand Jim Gaffigan. And then you got your Essential Everyday Gaffigan. But really, Jim Gaffigan is my spirit animal, so any man that can rub himself that much and get away with it should either be praised or put in prison. So let's go with that. I'm generic brand comedy. So while you can buy the name brand, it's more expensive, and you pay for a lot of the fancy stuff like comedic timing, storytelling, pacing. With me, you don't have to pay for any of that. You just get one awkward joke transition after another. So I like my alcoholic drinks like I like my religion and politics. Mixed. But really, I love those types of jokes, I like my like I like mine. Though I usually really get fascinated on the punchline and forget to fill in the rest until it's too late and I'm up on stage. Okay, I like my scenario A like I like my scenario B. Fast and loose. So anyways, another thing I like to do for fun, for jokes, I like a lot of puns. So one of the things my friend Phil Horn and I made a game of doing is taking book titles, specifically a lot of times religious ones, and trying to make the smallest change we could to have the biggest shift in meaning. So, for example, he came up with John Paul's love or responsibility. Another one of his works is The Theology of These Bodies. There was a book that my men's group read, kind of a little-known spiritual classic called The Soul of the Apostolate. If you drop a couple letters, it turns into a book you really don't want to read. The Soul of the Apostate. We're also here at the Newman Center. St. Henry Newman, recently canonized. He wrote a lot of books about education, including the idea of the university. If you add a four-letter word at the beginning and a little intonation, it takes on a very different tone. The very idea of a university. But yeah, Phil and I have enjoyed doing that. Phil Horn is now in Colorado. He's actually engaged, so I'm very excited for him. And I'm sure he and his lovely bride-to-be are reading the marriage prep classic, Christopher West's Good News About Sexy Marriage. So yeah, I was also excited because Cardinal Seurat came out with a recent book that I was really excited about. It was called The Power of Science. Yeah, it turns out there was an L in there. I threw it away, didn't speak about it for weeks. But it's not just limited, this game isn't just limited to nonfiction. It turns out C.S. Lewis's Narnia Chronicles could transition really well to a choose-your-own-adventure book series. The Lion, the Witch, or the Wardrobe. The Horse or his boy. The Voyage or the Dawn Trender. The Sylve or Chair. Okay, maybe that wasn't one book. So, in addition to the comedy, I also like cooking. It's something I enjoy doing. I actually did that part-time. Though I don't really use much of a recipe, I just kind of cook as I go. So the really hard part is when people are like, oh, I really like your food. Can you give me the recipe? And I panic. And I have two reactions to that. One is to go the Paul Hollywood from Great British Baking Show and just technical recipe. Bake bread, cut vegetables, bake, make 11 identical sequences. What do you mean you did it wrong? Or the other one is just to be really vague and just insert Jedi language. Reach out to the dough with your feelings. Let the broth just flow through you. But yeah, I really like cooking. I really like learning about cooking. I like watching Alton Brown. One of my favorite shows is Good Eats. Though I've learned that I have to take Alton Brown with a grain of salt. Because here he is, he has his own studio kitchen and everything, and I'm a poor graduate student. So when he comes out and says, okay, look, we're going to make stir fry, and you're going to need a cast iron wok, and that's non-negotiable. I'm like, well, Alton Brown, all I have is a colander and 3 sporks, so it's going to have to be negotiable. This is why I think I'd actually do really well on his other show, which is called Cutthroat Kitchen. It's where there's different chefs, they compete against each other, but then they can buy sabotages to sabotage other chefs. I think I do really well, not because I'm an amazing cook, but I'm essentially immune to sabotage. All right, I'm sorry, Chef Mark. You got the sabotage, you can't use your chef knives. Didn't have any to begin with. Ooh, you got another sabotage, Chef Mark. Instead of pots and pans, you can only use tinfoil. What is this, the weekdays? All right, I'm afraid you got a third sabotage, Chef Mark. You're gonna have to incorporate hot dogs and ketchup into your clam bake. Well, I was gonna do that anyway, so no sweat. Well, actually a lot of sweat, but not because of that. But yeah, I really like learning to cook things, though I'm learning that not everything is worth cooking. Someone asked me once, like, well, Mark, why don't you try croissants? I was like, well, one, I don't have 14 hours to make the dough, and two, it turns out you can go to the store and for $3 eat croissants out of a tube. But there are things that are actually really worth cooking yourself, like naan. It's a traditional Indian flatbread. It's pretty expensive in the stores, but it's actually pretty easy to make at home and quite cheap. Though it's not perfectly easy. There's some tricky parts to it. You have to cook it on a griddle, and it's actually at that stage really hard not to eat every single one as it comes off the griddle. But yeah, I cook a lot. I used to do a lot of grocery shopping. And now, as a college student, unlike a lot of college students, I didn't eat a lot of cereal. But now that I'm married to a wife who really likes cereal, I'm starting to learn more about the cereal business. And it's really crazy because you walk into the cereal aisle these days and there's all kinds of new cereal that makes it clear that just with all the cereal companies, they've all cooperatively decided to totally give up the jig that cereal was in any way ever healthy part of your breakfast. I mean, they've got donut cereal, churro cereal, what is it, Sour Patch Kids cereal. Okay. Yeah. So there's Oreo cereal, but then there's also Golden Oreo cereal. When the second string cookies are getting their own cereal, you know the jig's up. But it's not just cereal in the breakfast aisle that are trying to mix things up. I've noticed Pop-Tarts been doing that lately. Now Pop-Tarts have always, had a lot of flavors, but they're really trying to get you to eat them in different ways. Now, growing up, there's only 2 ways to eat Pop-Tarts. One, you could put it in the toaster and put it down and cook it. Or you could eat it raw. like an animal. But nowadays, they have all sorts of ideas on the box. I saw one that said, well, try putting it in the freezer. Try microwaving it, using the oven, all sorts of ways. And not only that, I saw in one box, it said to me, trying your Pop-Tart just one way isn't picky, but it is cocky. I'm like, Pop-Tart, it's breakfast. I don't need you judging me this early in the morning. But another thing that's trying to really mix it up over in the dessert aisle is Cool Whip. Now, I don't know if you've bought Cool Whip recently, but the ones I bought have all sorts of ideas on the lid of how you can use Cool Whip. So, a lot of them are normal, okay, use with dessert, fruit, waffles, whatever. But there's some other ones that are really sketchy. Like, mix into a smoothie. It's oh great, the one, breakfast things that could maybe be healthy, let's just ruin it. So, what'd you have for breakfast this morning, Mark? Well, I had a kale, goji berry, flax, and Cool Whip smoothie. But the most ridiculous one this was the suggestion Cool Whip had of how to enjoy it. Eat like ice cream. That does not sound like a dessert option. That sounds like a cry for help. So, what'd you do this weekend, Mark? Well, I ate Cool Whip like ice cream. I'm always here for you, right? You can talk to me if you need to. But the last thing, they suggested is put in hot cocoa or coffee. But of course, Cool Whip is actually mostly hydrogenated oil, so if you put it in coffee and it melts, it just ends up being an oil spill in your coffee. Because the best part of waking up is BP in your cup. Can I get some Cool Whip out here? But I really like coffee, as you all probably know. But as I'm getting older, I'm learning that I actually can't drink certain kinds of coffee anymore. The prime example is Folgers French Roast. Because I realized as I kept drinking Folgers French Roast, I started wearing scarves and smoking cigarettes and staring out the window blankly and, quoting Sartre and Camus in their original French. Because the best part of waking up is on the way in your cup. But no, there's a lot of really great other blends of Folgers that I can drink, especially some of their dark roasts, because they have really fun titles and also interesting descriptions. So that's my friend Justin Berger and I decided if we ever become entertainers, we're going to use Folgers Coffee as our stage names. So Justin will, of course, be Black Silk, bold yet smooth. And I, of course, will be Gourmet Supreme, robust and full-bodied. So yeah, I like coffee, and I definitely need it now more than ever with little David here. So I've really enjoyed the whole process of fatherhood. It turns out I thought pregnancy would be a lot harder. Well, obviously I wasn't pregnant, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking, but I thought the process would be a lot harder. It actually wasn't too bad at all. Really the worst part up until labor was the last couple of weeks, those false contractions. One, because they're, obviously were painful and annoying to Sarah, but two, because their technical name, Braxton Hicks, sound like a really annoying millennial kid. Sarah, did Braxton Hicks show up again? Dang, I don't like that kid. But yeah, pregnancy went pretty well. We actually So we didn't actually go through the hospital. We had a midwife, so we decided to do a home birth, and specifically Sarah really wanted to do a water birth. So we actually ended up getting like this birthing pool to get it set up in an apartment. I thought that was more complicated than we needed to do. I just thought we should just get a season pass to the public pool. But it was really helpful because with this whole fatherhood thing, that I had actually a lot of experience with like children and babies up until this, so I kind of knew a little bit of what I was getting into. For example, before David came, Sarah and I worked together, and she actually ran a morning school for 3 to 5 year olds out of our apartment, so got a lot of experience with that. Of course, it was a really big learning curve for us to run a school and keep 3 to 5 children alive and healthy. So I think if we do it again, we decided we're gonna make also a slogan to help lower parents' expectations. Williamson Morning School, 3 out of 5 ain't bad. Williamson Morning School, we wash your kids like you wash your figure. Not well. But it was great. It was a Montessori style school, and so if you know anything about the Montessori philosophy, it deals a lot with helping the children learn how to do things themselves, which is great. But you have to be careful, because if you're not careful, it can start to look like slave labor. All right, little Agnes, what did you learn today at school? Well, I learned how to sweep the floor, I learned how to do dishes, and I hauled rocks from the quarry. I'm sorry, what was that last one? Mr. Mark said to say that we went on a field trip. That's not actually, that last bit, that's not actually true. It's Dr. Mark. So but it's been really great. David's a really good baby. I don't have really much to complain about at all. There's really been only really 2 big things that he and I haven't really seen eye to eye on. The first is, of course, sleep schedule. It'll be midnight, 3 a.m. and he'll still be doing this. And I'll come in and be like, how much do you disregard mom and dad's sleep schedule? This much. And then the other thing he doesn't agree with me on is my research. I'll explain to him why soil science is important, my results, and what they mean, and he'll just make a face at me and fill his pants. But speaking of pants filling, good transition, right? Changing diapers, actually, once again, I had some experience, but it wasn't as bad as I thought, and I really kind of got a trial by fire because Sarah's on bed rest, so I did most of the changes the first couple weeks. One of the things I really learned that was helpful is when you're changing a baby to treat it like it's always loaded. In fact, I want to take a hunter safety manual and adapt it for first-time parents by replacing every instance of the word gun with baby. Every baby is a loaded baby. Never point your baby at something you don't intend to shoot. Never look down the barrel of a loaded baby. When not in use, keep your baby locked up and away from children at all times. Okay, maybe that last one doesn't work. But it's really surprising, once you have a baby, just how quickly the baby learns what the most uncomfortable way to hold him is, and then decide that's the only way in the middle of the night that he'll be comforted. You know, it's something like you have to hold him in one hand, stretched out, and do power cleans at the same time. Well, all right. Oh, now you're asleep. I think for the next baby, what I'm gonna try to do is trick the baby into thinking what the most uncomfortable position is. So, you know, the baby will be crying, little Braxton. You know, I kind of like this one as much as the first one. I don't know why. All right, you're not sleeping. I guess I have no choice. I gotta slip into this tub full of nacho cheese to get you to sleep. But yeah, having a baby is really great. We read to him in the womb. We try to read to him now. A lot of the books, of course, with the newborn is, you know, picture books. But so I'll read to him, but I try to like add some commentary to the books that he has to like prepare him for the real world. So we have like a little baby's first outdoor book, you know. I'll like read it to him like, all right, David, this is a house. Something you'll never be able to afford. This is a snowflake, which boomers will accuse you of being. But yeah, I like reading him. I've been thinking about like writing my own books for him, like baby's first, you know, bacteria taxonomy. But it turns out there's a company called Baby University that's kind of beat me to it. So instead of making my own, I've actually called them up to give them some ideas. So I pitched baby's first non-Euclidean geometry. I've never heard no over the phone so fast. But then I kept calling them because I'm stubborn, like, you know, baby's first Bayesian probabilities, baby's first bioinformatics, baby's first phenomenology. You know, it's really funny after a while to like hear from like a children's book publishers repeated death threats. But no, baby David, he's a very good baby. As you all probably have noticed, he's very healthy. That boy has more rolls than a church basement on Sunday. But it's fine. As my friend Nick Bittner taught me, it's okay because women like husky babies. It's true. I like to tell David, like, don't get too attached to this. Women won't always love your rolls. I mean, but for now, it's fine, David. Women like their babies like they like their peanut butter. Like that weird natural stuff that unless you stir it, like, the grease rises to the top. Oh, sorry. Extra chunky. Anyways. Wait for it. But, I mean, speaking of roles, I've been, for a while there, I was doing a good job of actually working out, staying healthy. David kind of threw a little wrench in the plans. It's been harder to stay active, but hopefully I'll be able to do this pretty soon. But it's been really weird because lately when I've been on the computer, I've been getting a lot of targeted ads from things like Bowflex or Nordic Track, you know, for brand new, you know, cycling bike or treadmill. I'm thinking, like, am I really their target audience? Then I thought, well, maybe the algorithms just like have like excluded all the really fit people because they just assume that they've already bought a treadmill. So, you know, the computer program looks up my profile, and they're like, oh yeah, there's no way he has one of these. Sell it to him. But, you know, it is kind of scary using the, you know, internet these days, just how well, you know, these programs can target you for ads, and you're looking at purses one day and then, you know, purses show up the next day. It's weird. But so sometimes what I like to do is try to fool these algorithms by just searching for radically different things on the same day to really mix them up. Like one day, 1 hour I'll be looking at really dangerous stuff like skydiving or bear fighting, or like really dangerous stuff, like eating poisonous spiders alive, expressing my emotions. But then on the other end, do the opposite of that, like how to deal with phobia to cotton and lint, or are there such a thing as extra safe spaces because I'm afraid that safe spaces just aren't safe enough. But yeah, it's kind of a scary world sometimes out there. Makes me really happy that I'm Catholic, and that we have understanding that we actually have guardian angels that can watch over us. And not only can they watch over us, they can do things for us. Now, I know some people actually ask their guardian angel to wake them up in the morning, and I think that's really cool. Though I wouldn't actually trust myself for that. Not to say my guardian angel couldn't do it. I can barely trust myself to wake up after 2 alarms of the most horrendous sound I can find. 5:59, 5:59, 6, and there's just dying elephants. I'm like, I'll sleep it off. But another thing, turns out you can do with your guardian angel is during Mass, during the offerings, like bread and wine, you can actually offer up your very self, and you can ask your guardian angel to carry it up to the altar. I try to do that a lot, though I usually forget, and then it's not till the priest is doing the Eucharistic prayer that I remember, and then ask my angel to do it late. And I know the angel's an incorporeal being, but I always imagine he's like me in that situation, just really sweaty and awkward, oh goodness. I'm so embarrassed. But yeah, not only am I glad that we have angels as Catholic, I'm really glad that we have reconciliation, because we're all kind of broken human beings. Really glad we have confession. Though one of the hardest parts of confession is usually when there's a really long line, because confession it's not always that easy to confess your sins, or at least for me. I actually speak for all of you. And then so it's really hard, and then you also have to wait in line to do it. And then sometimes you actually have additional sins once you finally get into the confession. Forgive me, Father, I did X, Y, and Z on Wednesday and Thursday, and had evil thoughts about people who took 20 minutes ahead of line. But so I think what we can do to help out this big problem is take some pointers from other avenues of life that use lines. For example, if there's 2 priests, we could use the grocery store method and have a regular line, but then a speed line. The normal line, and then the 10 sins or less line. Or else we could look at the amusement park industry, where you actually kind of like waiting in line. So you could, have all those waving back and forth things you have to get through, and you can have a little sign that says, must be this tall to repent. And then you get up there, confessional. There's actually two sections. The first one, forgive me, Father, bless me, blah blah. Get over to the next one, and a little bar comes down and says, please keep all venial sins inside the box at all times. And then off you go. Though I don't know if that would fly from a business standpoint. Father Chuck, you want $10 million to renovate the confessionals? So, speaking about other sins, let's talk about white guys dancing. So, I really like dancing, and the premier place to dance, of course, is a wedding dance. But unfortunately, most of my peers are already married, and of the ones who are married now, we're starting to have children, so it's a lot harder to dance at those things. For example, one of the last weddings I was at with my friend Jeffrey McGee, really didn't get out on the dance floor very much. We just mostly talked about how much a certain AC/DC song would make a good dialogue for a plane in trouble. So this is ground control. Could you tell me your location? Texas! Texas? Yeah, Texas! Okay, when you noticed the problem, why didn't you turn around right away? Because I knew there was no turning back! Okay, why didn't you call us earlier? Because I knew there was no help from you! What does your engine sound like right now? Rah, 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 rah. Rah, 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 rah. Okay? Do you know what happened to your engine? We've been thunderstruck! Are you sure? Yeah, thunderstruck! So yeah, we did that the whole night instead of dancing. So what I've decided when it comes to wedding dances, I'm gonna have to wait until all my friends, all my peers, all their children grow up and get married, and then there'll be plenty of wedding dances. So I have to work on my dance skills now, because I'm sure by then my current dance skills will no longer be, fast and loose. So I have to make sure I'm still relevant. So I guess the first one is because in 2025, all the technology companies will take over the world. So this will be a hot new dance. It's called Robot Overlords. Alexa, look up slave labor statistics. Another one, because it seems like moving man-made objects are always a pretty popular dance move. I think I'll whip this one out, the stand mixer. Oh, better turn up the speed. And of course, by then, some dances will come back in style and be retro. So this is one I'm trying out to be pretty hip at that point. It's called the Millennial. Entitlement, text. Angst. Entitlement, text. Angst. It's gonna be hot. All right. So I use a lot of hand gestures for, of course, dancing, but also, as you can see, speaking. And as a eventual, hopefully, professor, I'll be talking a lot, and so I have to use a lot of gestures. So I thought I'd give you a sneak peek of some of my gestures and what they actually mean, in case you're ever trapped in one of my classes. So first, there's the philosophy danger pinch. When you see this happens, you're in imminent danger of some sort of philosophical jargon, like existential, or ontology, or heaven forbid, essence. Then there's also what I call the Stephen Barr pseudo-conspiracy hand wag. It's where you build something up as if it's going to be controversial, but it's actually not controversial at all. So it's, what if I told you that everything I'm about to say is well supported by science? What if I told you that over the last 10 years, the research supports Mark like in school? And then, of course, there is the football transition hands. And with that, let's transition. So, football. They're called football transition hands for a reason. So I've been getting more into football the last couple of years. I'm not natively really interested in football as much. What if I told you that Mark Williamson isn't that interested in football? No, but like a lot of my friends really like it, and I'm trying to be sociable despite my failed sociology class. So I try to learn more about football, because I like people. And it's really interesting time to be getting into football, just with all the controversies about names and appropriateness. Like, I know at UND we're no stranger here. We used to be the Fighting Sioux, now we're the Fighting Hawks. It isn't just regional; it's on national level. I know like NFL teams get into hot water. Like I know the Redskins, pretty controversial for a while here, but it doesn't really end there. Take, for example, the New England Patriots. As a man of English background, I find that offensive. I would prefer you call them the British separatists. It gets worse. The Vikings, or even worse, the Raiders. The politically correct term is Scandinavian entrepreneurs. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens the next 10, 20 years. Maybe what will happen is, all the teams will just be like renamed into really like abstract, benign titles like they name cars nowadays. So I'm excited for like 2025 when the NFL is presented by Nissan. We have the Seattle Sentras. We have the Green Bay Maximas. The Atlanta Ultimas. The Jacksonville Jukes. Never mind, that still sounds imperfect. With that, thank you and good night. So I think at this point, are we going to